Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the BHA Advisory Council on this beautiful November day. We have a lot to talk with you about today. We will be moving along. I'm going to go ahead and go over this slide as our interpreters will hopefully be joining us shortly. During this event, you can spotlight our ASL interpreters so they will appear larger on your screen. You have the ability to change your view at any time. In the upper right-hand corner of your screen is a view button. Use this to toggle between speaker view and gallery view. You can also hover over the right corner of the ASL interpreter video and select pin if you would like to see them large on your screen. If you need sign language interpretation, look for the globe icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen titled Interpretation. Click on it and select American Sign Language, and magically a floating box will appear with our interpreters. So as soon as we have them, I will let you know and we can try that feature out. It is a newer feature that we just learned about yesterday, but it's pretty exciting.
Megan, Princess just commented that 2 links were sent out, so they may be on the other link.
Okay.
And welcome, Princess. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you for that information, Princess. Sorry, I'm just looking for what other link. Princess, were you in the other link? Were there other people in there? Okay, I'm going to continue and we'll wait for a response. Closed captioning has been enabled for this event. Click on the closed captioning button at the bottom of your Zoom window to turn on subtitles. If you need to change the subtitled language, click the caret to the right of the bottom and translate to your chosen language. If you are having technical difficulties, please direct message Marina Borisov, in the chat for help. If you are a member of the public and having technical difficulties, please message Marina in the Q&A. At this time, we will call the meeting to order and take attendance. And Jason Chowsey has graciously volunteered to assist us in taking minutes for this meeting, and he will now take attendance.
Karen Renee Anderson.
I'm here.
Ash Annan.
I'm here.
Robert Archuleta.
Here.
Robert Dorschmeyer.
He's no longer a member.
Okay. Raquel Garcia.
Present.
Carolyn Hall.
Here.
Hasha Konkar.
Present.
Ronly Leon.
She's here.
Present in the chat.
Okay. Maria Martinez.
Here.
And Stacy Oberly.
Here.
Jesse, is it Pocock? Tina Rowe.
Jesse's no longer on council.
Okay.
And neither is Tina.
Okay. Noor Shafi.
Present.
Rana Shaner. Andrea, is it Sivanich? Jamie Ulrich,
Good morning, I'm here.
Cameron Visual Datello, Catherine Washington,
Present.
Seth Watkins, and Selwyn, is it White Skunk? That's everybody on my list.
Okay, thank you for that, Jason. All council members are able to unmute. Please raise your hand to acknowledge prior to speaking, and please identify yourself. The Q&A feature is open for all attendees. However, some questions may not be addressed in real time. The chat feature will be open for the last 10 minutes. The council will determine how to address any public comments or questions we do not get to today. A recording is in progress for note-taking purposes and for any council members not in attendance. All future meeting minute dates, agendas, and minutes will be posted to the BHA website. Any questions or comments regarding the council or BHA can be submitted via the Contact Us section on the BHA website.
Megan, I want to stop you for a quick moment. It looks like we haven't set up, I don't think, the chat feature correctly yet. We have members of the public writing in chat to everyone, so I want to pause and make sure we get this set up correctly before we get started. So can we get that resolved real quick here?
Yes,
before
thank
we
you.
Continue on.
Thank you, Kristen. We tested that out this morning, but we will look at that now. Jason, can you please verify that that is?
I'm continuing to see chats to everyone from
I just see them. I see them now too, Kristen. Thank you.
Sorry for my late arrival, but I'm here.
Okay.
Good to see you, Seth.
Sorry, Marina.
I think that should be fixed now.
Okay, great, thank you. And I don't know, Megan, sorry, I cut you off there, but can you do a reminder of when we are making public comments available and open, and how members of the public can be heard as part of this advisory council today?
Thank you. I was just going to repeat that. So for all members will be able to utilize the chat function and can raise their hands and can speak. The Q&A feature is open for all attendees. However, we may not be able to address questions in real time. The chat feature will be open for the last 10 minutes, and the council will determine how to address any public comments or questions that we do not get to today. Okay, for this slide, we are actually going to revisit this slide a little bit later when we get to our BHAAC business meeting. It was brought to my attention that this slide was created for our council, but not with our council. And so our council will spend some time today creating these group agreements that work for all of you, as this is an important part of psychological safety within this group. So the current group agreements are to listen and engage respectfully, to acknowledge that differences of opinion are natural and useful, to have an open mind and be curious and be bold. Everyone has equal voice and valuable contribution. Take space, make space. Keep to time and agenda. Start and end the meetings on time. No acronyms, please. And it is okay to turn off your camera and take time to reset at any time during the meeting. So just keep this page in mind. And we will be revisiting this and making this unique to our BHAAC members. On our agenda today, we are currently in the call to order process. Next up, we will vote for our temporary chair of the day. Following that, we will have the approval of the September minutes. and then BHAC business, BHAC representation, a break from 10:15 to 10:30. Commissioner Barnes will present on the commissioner update and briefing. At 10:45, we have a guest from our safety net team who has prepared a grievance report overview, followed by lots of time to hear your input and thoughts. And then at 11:50, we will open the meeting for public comment. Okay, it is now time to ask for volunteers to be the temporary chair of the day. Please raise your hand if you would like to volunteer. Don't see any hands yet. Any volunteers to be our chair for the day? The role of the chair is to ensure that we keep on track and that we keep to the agenda and that the meeting continues to flow appropriately.
I'll volunteer.
Is that Queen? Can't tell who.
I
That
also
was
see
me.
Tasha.
It was what?
Tasha?
Oh, Tasha. Thank you, Tasha. Sorry, I couldn't see you for a minute. I was scrolling through looking for hands.
It was both Queen and Tasha. They both raised their hand.
Oh, it was both Queen and Tasha. Okay. Queen, are you raising your hand to ask a question or were you raising to volunteer? I just want to be very clear.
I want to be very clear that I am nominating Tasha.
Okay, then we will move forward with a vote. Please use the raise your hand feature to vote for Tasha as your chair of the day. Fantastic. Tasha, welcome as the chair of the day for the meeting.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate this. Give me 1 second to pull the agenda. Megan, so our next, just to follow, our next step of business is to approve September's minutes to review and approve them for public, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm following the agenda correctly.
Thank you.
Can we get, I don't know, has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from last month on our pre-homework that we were supposed to do? Okay, does anybody have any objections to the minutes or any input to the minutes from September's meeting? I can't see hands, so if anybody else can help me out with that, I'd appreciate that. So
Queen does.
Queen, go right ahead. Thank you.
That's where we have a number of former JAG attorneys in my firm, like former U.S. Marine Captain Bob. As a former JAG lawyer for 34 years.
Queen, do you have a question?
No, my apologies.
Okay.
Let me
Okay.
put my hand down. Sorry.
No worries, girl, no worries. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes for September's meeting?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I move to approve the minutes for September 2023's meeting, Behavioral Health Administration Advisory Council meeting minutes. So motion is approved.
Thank
Where's
you,
my
Tasha.
gavel? No, sorry. All right. Now business. Group agreements.
KKTV 11 News, your breaking weather leader.
So I wanted to give a quick introduction to this. This was that slide I was talking about before, that of the group agreements that were put in place for BHAAC, but you all had let me know that those were not your group agreements. And so Raquel Garcia talked with me about this a little bit too. And so I will pass it over to Raquel to lead a quick discussion and help us come up with group agreements for BHAAC that work specifically for our council.
Thanks, Megan. I appreciate it. First of all, welcome to the meeting, y'all. Welcome, council. It's so good to connect again today. Really, this was a place for us to grow from, right? So I love to think of community agreements as the soil from which we all plant ourselves in every time we take root in this space. And I appreciate the group agreements that everybody had came up for us. But I thought, considering what we've endured the last few months, that we create some agreements that are for us and by us and created with us. And so I had proposed to council that we could start fresh from here and give ourselves a fresh start and some fresh soil so that we can grow and do what we're asked to do for the state of Colorado. So I appreciate you guys joining us in this today. So Megan, can you put up the agreements we had originally to start from?
Yes.
You could go back a little bit. And I know many of us with lived experience have been in groups, and we create these norms all over the state of Colorado. And this was an awesome way to invite the BHA down to our level a little bit and kind of be with us as we co-create. But we also want the feedback of the BHA, because we all have to grow in this space, where we all have to do the work in this space. So first of all, council, I want you to think of what you need to feel seen, heard, and respected in this space. What is important for you as an individual, able to do the work that we're called to do in this state? We can either go in the chat, we can come off mic. I just want you to think of what you need in this space when we're present together in order to feel seen, heard, respected, so that we can grow. Seth?
Hi, Seth Watkins. I just want to have an introduction. I may have missed the new people on the council, and I would like to get to see their faces and get to know a little bit about them, and kind of I know we're gonna all talk about what we represent on the council, but if they wanted to do a minute spiel or something, just so I have a little familiarity with them. And then also I would like to have more time for the quiet people in the council to have time to speak up more than the loudmouths like me. So.
Ditto.
Thank you, Seth.
I appreciate that, Seth. So I'm hearing that an introduction of the new people to council is important for you. Obviously, right, to create some safe space that we know who's in our presence, that's important. And then also to give space to those who usually maybe, I like to say, are moved back, and we want you to move forward, that kind of thing, Seth? Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Carolyn, let's hear what you got to say, and then Tasha.
Sure. So what I feel is most important is communication. And I know some people have been very communicative about things that they felt real disrespectful on, and I really appreciate that. But I think sometimes, for myself especially, I have to do something a few times just to practice, to make sure that I'm supporting that person. So if I'm not, to let me know so that I can keep correcting myself. Because I feel like for me, I try to be the best I can to the individuals, especially all of you. And Raquel, I do appreciate you and Tasha's voice so much, you know, in sharing when something doesn't feel right or is uncomfortable to you. So I just kind of wanted to put it out there that I think communication and conversation is really healthy.
All right. Communication, conversation, and then I heard a little bit at the beginning that it's okay to course correct, right? To say that we can hold ourselves accountable for our actions and stuff, and then make different choices moving forward.
I think like using I statements, you know, I think is the best, right? Because then we're not making accusations and we're not finger pointing. We're saying, hey man, I felt this way when you did this. This is a healthier approach. So I think giving people approaches and how they can, what it would look like if it was healthy.
Even healthy discord, right? It's okay yeah, it's okay. Healthy discord and saying I versus you.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go around this for a little bit, and then we are going to do as a group is that we're going to get to reflect on this too, because I don't expect us to have all the answers today. And what we'll do is draft a combination of what you see on the screen plus what we're adding today, and then we'll get to reflect on that. And then as a council, we'll rumble that in the background, and then we'll present it at our next meeting as a collective. Sound good? All right, Tasha? I can't hear you, girl. You're on mute.
Transparency and accountability, and that comes with truth and honesty, and that's what builds the trust, and that's the number one value of the BHA is trust. So, or truth, it's truth. So I just want to reiterate that truth and own our wrongs, and that includes us council members as well. So
yes,
we set the precedents as well as administration. So thank you.
Mutual accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Tasha. I'm going to go to Rob. Oh, my screen just changed. Hold on 1 second. Rob, and then Seth, and then back to Carolyn.
Hi, I think for me, I would like to see focus. Like, let's get some work done. One of the things, it seems like we get off track really easy and we go off into the weeds, and then a lot of times it kind of, we don't look like a team. And so for me, one of the things that would help me want to still participate is forward movement and having focus on advising the BHA from a lived experience and not getting caught in the other aspects of what's happened in the past. So I'm just down, like, let's just focus, get stuff done. Not that the other stuff's not important, but having an opportunity to communicate all of those other things at a different time and keep this meeting or these meetings, especially when we're in the public, just focused and moving forward to helping create, just healthy and equitable services for the state of Colorado.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks, Rob. So I'm hearing focus and forward movement. And I think that's honestly just saying that's why I think that just really honestly supports why we're starting here, right? Is so that we can get that groundwork leveled space so that we can move forward. That's what my hope is for all of us as council. Seth?
I think maybe in the beginning when we're doing roll call or just kind of like introducing ourselves or whatever, like being able to state our pronouns and having those pronouns respected by people like in the chat and also people like on the council for those that, may have different pronouns than what I have. And I think that's just from the LGBT point of view, just a sign of like respect and honor to like honor those pronouns. So
Appreciate that, Seth. So honoring pronouns.
I just want to jump in here right quick and let time check 4 minutes left on this section.
Perfect. Yeah, Tasha, thank you. Thank you. Since we did want to give voice to those who maybe don't normally speak, we got 4 minutes. We'd love to hear from others on council. What do you need to feel seen, heard, and respected in this space in order to do the great work we're called to do for the state of Colorado?
is Dr. Overly. I would really like us to focus on our work tasks and really be the voice that we're supposed to be in our meetings. Get the work done.
Be the voice, work tasks, and get through the work. Also, you know, when you do work, we get that accomplishment on the other side of doing that. So there's some gratification in that for us. Thanks so much. I appreciate that, Dr. Oberly. Anything else you guys can think of? Maybe something that was missing in the past that you need?
Compassion.
Compassion. All right. Well, I appreciate if anybody doesn't have anything else. I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this today. I will get with Megan. I kind of jotted some things down. I hope other people did too, Megan, and we will get together and pull all of this together and send you guys emails with all of that. And then we can just kind of, I don't know, I like to say, you know, think on that for a week, meditate on that for a week, and then come back with something that really feels like it was for us, by us, created with us. And that's really the goal, right? The beginning of us, nothing about us without us, including the soil from which we choose to grow from. So I appreciate all of you taking the time today and for giving me the space on the meeting this morning. Tasha, back over to you.
Thank you, Raquel. Oh,
Tasha,
yeah.
if I can, Robert Archuleta has his hand up and I want to make sure we acknowledge that. I don't know if
Oh,
it's
sorry,
maybe
Rob. Did you have something else, Rob?
No, I did not put it down. My bad.
Oh, okay.
I want to make sure we don't ignore you.
Thanks,
Thank
Marina.
you. Thanks
Mhm.
for acknowledging that. Okay, so our next group of business or agenda is our role and purpose here in Behavioral Health Administration Advisory Council.
Thank you.
And I hand it over to Megan, correct?
Yes, thank you, Tasha.
All right, thank you. Take it away.
Okay, thank you. So you all, your executive committee asked us to review this, the expectations one more time. We went over this in September, but just to make sure that we're really all on track and really understanding the role, we'll go through this one more time. So the role of the BHAAC is to provide feedback and make recommendations to the BHA commissioner to improve the behavioral health system for all people of Colorado. Providing feedback as a measure of ensuring transparency and accountability, to provide diverse community input on challenges, gaps, and potential solutions to inform the BHA's vision and strategic plan, to establish work groups to support the BHA in problem solving and developing solutions, and to review the BHA's public-facing activities, including the performance data collected to ensure public accountability and transparency, as well as to prepare an annual report of recommendations and submit it to the BHA by September 1st of every year. All of this work has to be done through trust, collaboration, and communication. The BHA will send out materials to review a minimum of 1 week prior to each meeting. So you all received pre-work prior to 1 week this time and some follow-up, and I appreciate all of your comments about how helpful that was. We will continue to do that, as I feel it's very important for us to be transparent and give you plenty of time to go through everything that will be presented. The BHA will present information on the materials during the meeting, followed by time to hear the council's input, feedback, and potential solutions. The BHA will send the link to register for upcoming town hall meetings. Just to let all of you know, we are not having a town hall in November, so our next town hall, you will receive the link ahead of time, will be in January. BHAAC members are encouraged to reach out to me with any concerns. And I appreciate all of you doing so. It has felt very interactive, and I've really enjoyed getting to know all of you and your passion for this work. Okay, so this next slide is to talk a little bit about, oh, go ahead, Tasha, sorry.
I just have a quick question, right quick. When it talks about providing our feedback, what does that look like to the BHA? So maybe us advisory council members have more of a clear understanding of what that looks like to you guys. So we're all on the same page. Thank you.
That's a great question, Tasha. Thank you. So when we share information with you, I will share it with you ahead of time so you have time to read it. This time we shared a short video, so you'd have a little bit of an idea of what would be presented. So I'd love to hear if that was helpful for you all as well. And then we'll have a presentation. So this afternoon, or not this afternoon, but after our break, so later this morning, we'll have a presentation, and then that will be followed by a lot of time to hear your feedback. So to hear your thoughts, to hear your concerns, to hear your reflections, any suggestions that you have on the information that we're presenting, just so we can really hear the voices of Colorado around the work that we're doing. And Tasha, we'll get to this in a few slides, but I think your question is also looking at the roles that BHAAC members represent. And so being able to provide feedback based on the role that you're representing, not just on personal experience, but the role that you are representing for the council. Okay, so a little bit of discussion around bylaws. The BHA has determined that all BHA councils and boards should function under standardized bylaws. So with that, the BHA leadership will work with the current BHAAC draft bylaws to develop standardized bylaws to be used for all BHA advisory councils. And so we have a meeting coming up, actually, I believe it is tomorrow, to start to work on what this process will look like, with the goal of having finalized bylaws for you all prior to your next meeting that you'll have plenty of time to review. BHA leadership will work with our legal team to ensure that the bylaws meet the legislative requirements for all boards and councils. And the bylaws will then be shared prior to the January 2024 meeting.
All right. So it's 9:35. It's time to move into our next order of business. That is going to be the Behavioral Health Administration Advisory Council representation. What we will be doing is members will share an overview of what Colorado groups and what we are presenting. So I don't know, who should I kick this off to? I don't want to go first.
You can pass it to me, Tasha.
All right, Megan, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, thank you. So as Tasha mentioned, the BHAAC representation in statute, BHAAC is required to represent different members of the community. Don't know what is happening with these slides. I apologize. They seem to have a mind of their own today. So this list here is the list of required representation on the BHAAC Council. And so each of you were selected in your membership seat under one of these roles. And so today we would like to just quickly, we don't have a lot of time to go deep into any of the discussion, but quickly go through and see who is here representing each of these different groups. And then this will also help us as we work on adding additional members to BHAAC to ensure that we have all of these covered, as some members representing some of them have left. And I see a few hands up. Tasha, I'll start with you, and then as chair, I'll let you call on the other hands.
Okay, I just wanted to ask a quick question right quick. When it comes to these, in the very beginning, it said in there about persons representing the LGBTQIA plus community, and that is not on here, and that's something that I do know that was on there to begin with. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Tasha. Thank you. I will address that.
And I will popcorn it over to Seth.
I'll let Carolyn go first. She's ahead of me.
Well, thank you, Seth. So what I'm curious about is like persons with disability, a family member, or a person with disability. How is disability defined? Is it physical conditions, mental health conditions? So I'm just wanting to know how that's defined.
I think it's defined of all by all disability, everything that fits into the disability category. So that can be mental disability, physical disability, all disability.
And I want to add on to there is, for clarification, is that on federal and state level or just state level? Under clarifications for what disability is defined as.
That's a great question. I would believe it would be, I didn't realize that they were different, Tasha. So I will look into that and I will respond to all BHAAC members with the definition of disability.
And Seth, we can go over to you.
Yeah, I have representation of lived experience, persons with disabilities. I have a physical disability and a mental health disability. I also kind of represent behavioral safety net providers, that I work as a peer specialist, and that I have experience with behavioral needs of youth, not children, but youth who are like young teenagers and, you know, young people. So I have multiple experiences of where I come from that I actually work towards making, helping those communities while being on this council. And I think it's really important. I also am LGBTQ IA, whatever plus you want to, you know, discuss as well. So I feel like I represent a lot, but that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Seth. And Jamie Ulrich, I saw you had your hand up, and we don't hear much from you, so I'm going to call on you right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. I am sorry it's chaotic over here today. I've got people delivering furniture and movers and all kinds of things happening at my house today. But I'm Jamie Ulrich. I represent the county government. You know, really interested in how we can help with, you know, all of behavioral health needs, especially more upstream and prevention and intervention type efforts. My primary focus, although it's not exclusive, is really around, you know, our child welfare population and how we can ensure that before those young folks become really highly acute, we are able to provide services early on when those assessments and those needs are identified. So I am the representative for the county government, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for sharing. And Raquel Garcia.
Yes, I represent lived experience, rural communities, persons with experience in behavioral health needs of children and youth, a person with expertise in crime victimization, trauma, or adverse childhood experiences as they impact them in life.
Thank you, Raquel. And can we get Renee Anderson next, please?
So I just have a question, and it goes back to what Seth was saying. Excuse me. When there's the intersectionality, how do we know where we're supposed to represent? Is it that more than one area is okay, or because honestly, I don't know which I was chosen for. I don't.
Yes, Renee, this can be more than one area. And it can really be, what I'd like to hear from you is when you're listening to our feedback from what perspective are you providing feedback? And that can be multiple perspectives.
Okay, so I guess with me, it's lived experience, someone with a disability, and living with a spouse and a son that also have disabilities. I think that's the best for me anyway.
Thank you.
Megan?
Thank you.
I'm so sorry, Tasha. I just want to make sure,
Nope,
this is
you're
Megan.
good.
I want to make sure, we do have both of the ASL interpreters online, and they have both been spotlighted as they are taking turns. So I want to make sure if you are seeking an ASL interpreter, you are able to see that in your view. If you are not able to see that in your view, please let me know. Type it in the chat. Be happy to try to troubleshoot, but everyone should be able to see it. You do have a view function to be able to see the entire gallery along with the slide deck. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. And I do see both ASL interpreters on my screen.
Yes, as well as I. So are we ready to move on to the next one? I'm going to popcorn out to Catherine Washington.
Thank you, Tasha. Good morning, everyone. So, two things. I'd like to see veterans represented on this list because I represent that group as well. So I'm a veteran. I have lived experiences, person with disabilities, and a person with expertise in crime victimization, trauma, and adverse childhood experiences as they impact the victim's life. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to pass it over to Carolyn Hall now.
Thank you. So I'm a person with lived experience and I'm a grandparent to a family member who is in the LGBTQ community, also family members on his other side. And then I am also work for an organization where I support all individuals with all disabilities, any issues, any life stressors across the state of Colorado. Thank you.
Tasha, can you see Dr. Stacy Oberly and Ronley Law? And now North Shelby, sorry. But those are the next three in order.
Dr. Ron Liao, would you like to go next?
Stacy was ahead of me. You want to go, Dr. Overly? Thank you, though, Tasha.
Sure, I'm Dr. Oberly, and I represent the Southern Ute tribal government in the southwest corner of Colorado.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And Dr. Ron Liao, would you
Thanks,
like to
Tasha.
go next?
Thanks, Tasha. I'm Dr. Ronley Liao. I'm a child psychiatrist and a person with expertise in the behavioral health needs of children and youth and families. Originally as well, I thought I was representing the integration of mental health and physical health services and vice versa, as well as a behavioral health safety net provider. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Oberly. And next I saw Nora's hand up, correct?
Yes. Hi.
All right. Hi.
I'm Nora. I represent, I have lived experience. I've had a mental health diagnosis since age 14. I also have a family member with a disability who I'm a caretaker for, and I'm also fall under the behavioral safety net provider. I currently work for a nonprofit, behavioral health nonprofit that works with children, youth, and families. And I also have expertise and lived experience in victimization, trauma, and adverse childhood experiences. And one thing that I want to do better at in this council is represent the Muslim population better, just because I feel like we're left out of a lot and there's a lot of misinformation. So it's my goal to represent my population more.
Thank you, Nora, for sharing. and Dr. Rob Archuleta.
Hi. So I fall under the category of safety net provider and have lived experience as well.
Thank you. I'm having a hard time seeing who else's hands, like keeping up with whose hands is up. I do see Renee Anderson's hand is up on my screen.
Okay, sorry. I wanted to also add that I do represent a rural community as well. I just wanted to add that. I looked at
Thank
the
you.
list again.
Thank you. And do you see anybody else's hands up? I'm having a hard time seeing other hands up.
Yes, Tasha, we have Robert. Robert has his hand up. Robert, go ahead.
Oh, again, sorry, I put it down. Sorry, my bad.
Okay. Okay.
No worries.
And we have Queen X as the name. Their hand
Queen.
up.
Queen, take it away. Tell us about you, girl.
She said Queen X is the name. You are right about that. Good morning, everyone. My name is Queen. I am here representing lived experience, a person with disabilities, both mental health and health, because every day I wake up Black, right? Let me see, person with expertise in the behavioral health needs of children and youth. Person with expertise in crime victimization, trauma, or adverse childhood experiences as they impact the victim's life. No arms about it. Honestly, I am going to support us and supporting the state of Colorado, helping all of us, and I am personally here to reestablish the Black Queen. Black leadership is real and it's needed. Thank you.
Thank you,
glad
Queen.
to be here with Tasha, though. You already know.
All right. Seth, did you have your hand up?
I just wanted to know if there was more representation from tribal governments in Colorado. I'm glad that we have one tribal nation represented. Are there more, or like the Ute tribes, and there's like many tribes that should be on here represented, as well as the Colorado State Judicial Branch? I mean, those are two of the like areas that I see that we've been missing, or just not being aware of who kind of is from those like representations of communities that we're supposed to be working with. So I just want to know if there's someone like that.
Thank you, Seth. That's some great questions. Do we have any immediate answers for any of his questions with it comes to our criminal justice and more tribal government representation? Megan?
I think I was waiting to see if anyone was going to chime in to answer, but this is exactly why we're having this conversation, is to be able to see where the gaps are so that we can move forward with that. So thank you for the great question, Seth.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go. I'm gonna go ahead and go right quick. I don't know if I interrupted anybody. I apologize. I am a person with disabilities. I am a survivor of a childhood traumatic brain injury, multiple. I am also a person with expertise in the behavioral health needs for children. And that comes from myself as well as helping others. And persons with expertise in crime victimization, trauma, adverse childhood experiences. Like the state of Colorado has done its trauma on me. So I represent everybody in rural areas. I represent them all. So I don't just stand for one, I stand for everybody. Thank you. And Marina Martinez, you got your hand up?
Yeah. I think you had somebody had Dr. Stacy, whatever.
Thank you, Marina. I just wanted to let the council know that there are 2 federally recognized tribes in Colorado. That's the Southern Ute, which I represent, and the Ute Mountain Ute, which Samhain White Skunk represents, but he hasn't been at any of our meetings. So that's sort of how our tribal governments are represented. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. I know I saw a few more hands. Megan, can I get your help or somebody's help? Because I can't see everybody's hands. They keep like jumping back
Maria
and forth.
Martinez is next.
Okay, Marie.
Yeah, it's Maria, not Marie.
Yeah,
Maria.
Marie.
So I am a person with lived experience. I also represent the rural communities, and I also represent all disabilities, which I work at a Center for Disabilities. I'm also Indigenous, and I represent the Indigenous people that are not connected to tribes. So that's who I am.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Sorry about the mispronunciation of Maria, sorry. I'll get it, sorry.
All right. Do we have any other hands up? Council members, if you can see.
You do not, Tasha.
Okay. And I know it's 9:54. We take break at 10:15, so we have a few more minutes. Actually like 20 minutes, I think. Yeah.
I don't know if you saw my message. We did, one of the slides got skipped over. So we do have one thing to go back to, and I just wanted to get back there by 10. So if we had any additional conversation around this specific task, we can continue that until 10. Otherwise, Tasha, you can loop us back, and Marina will get us back to the slide that got skipped.
Yeah, let's do that. Is everybody in agreement to loop us back around? Or is there anybody else that wants to share? All right, we're gonna loop us back around.
Okay, which slide, Megan? Let me know.
Slide 15.
Numbers on here.
Okay, so it should be the one after the bylaws one. This slide. So I have been very, very excited to talk with you all about this slide in particular. I want to once again thank all of you for reaching out to both myself as well as to Commissioner Barnes and sharing your feedback and your thoughts on, I see your celebration, Tasha, on what all things within BHAAC and BHA. And so I want to be very clear that we are listening to you, and we have heard you with your recommendation that the BHA should have an advisory council that is 100% lived experience. So we just went through some of the roles, and as you can see, this advisory council is not 100% lived experience. It is majority, which means it is a minimum of 51% lived experience. But our friends over at CDHS have an amazing family voice council that is 100% lived experience. And so with listening to all of you and taking in your recommendations, I'm excited to announce that the BHA will establish our own Family Voice Council in early 2024. And so, as you may have noticed, there are some panelists who have joined us today and have been actively participating with us. They are not BHAAC members, but they are our very special guests today to talk about the Family Voice Council. And so with that, I would like to introduce Chelsea Hall and Princess and Queen to tell us a little bit more about Family Voice Council and how that works.
Thank you so much, Megan, and hello to everyone. Seth, I see your hand, so we'll definitely get to, I think, questions after we just introduced this concept a little bit. Family Voice Council at CDHS just celebrated our 5-year anniversary. So we are a very well-established model that is now recognized nationally. So we have helped other states and Colorado state agencies create their family voice councils over the years. And I'm so excited now that with the success of the program and with our alumni members, we received a grant to help to actually pay our alumni to help agencies, other states, local counties develop family voice councils. So it's not us, it's you, it's families, people lived with lived experience who are now helping other agencies replicate our model. So that is also really exciting. I think this also definitely aligns with the BHA's mission. When I started at the state, I worked at the Office of Behavioral Health in grant management. So I am super passionate about Family Voice Council for BHA. And I think it aligns well with your mission and collaboration, people first, transparency, accountability, all of the things. So I am just super excited to help you create this model alongside some of our alumni members who have been with us from the very beginning. Another important thing is that we do track all of the items and action items that have been implemented based on Family Voice Council feedback. We have a dashboard that represents all lived experience, as well as the changes that have been made over the years. So I don't want to spend too much. I want to kick it over to Princess and Queen to introduce themselves. They are alumni who will be spearheading this project and working alongside you all. And then also have to give a special shout out to Tasha, because Tasha has been a liaison between the two groups for a year now, since the advisory council of BHA has been created. So thank you, Tasha, too, for your leadership and your liaisoning between the two. But Princess and Queen, would you like to introduce yourselves and share just a little bit about how Family Voice Council has benefited you and your family over the years?
Princess, start with you, Sister Queen.
Absolutely. So good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Princess Mack, and I am honored to be in this space with you and be in community with you. One of the pieces, which is so interesting, that brought us in this space is understanding how valuable lived experience is as it pertains to the services that are utilized by our communities, how we move through those systems, how those systems affect us, with us, and around us. So I am excited to be in this space with you. I'm excited to bring my lived experience, listen to your lived experience. I did not do a lot of talking when I came online because I wanted to know you. I wanted to hear from you. I wanted to understand the things that are passionate to you. So I am a mother and a grandmother. I bring the lived experience of being families that have veteran partners with severe PTSD. I am a person that has grandchildren that have nonverbal neurodivergent autism. I have a granddaughter that has albinism. I have a daughter that is transgender. So there are a lot of pieces and spaces that I'm in that really, and there's many more voices that I bring. I am excited to be in this space because I want to understand what makes you move, what are your heartstrings, how do you want to give feedback and receive feedback. And that's where our Family Voice Compass model comes into play. So I am here to be in community. I'll turn it over to Queen and we can have more conversations. I don't want to absorb all this space in the room, but I definitely am excited and I'm grateful to have met all of you and really look forward to being in community with you.
Thank you, sister. I appreciate you. Good morning. My name is Queen. I'm always going to be very interactive. I have been with the Family Voice Council since its inception. Was interviewed by Princess and Mary Alice. Honestly, this space has done extraordinary, it has put extraordinary paths and strides and supports in way of navigating the systems that have been in my life all of my life, having been emancipated through foster care. I too am glad to be in this space with you guys. When I think about behavior health, having been diagnosed with bipolar very late in my life, having biracial grandchildren, being diagnosed with fetal alcohol syndrome, and being on the spectrum of autism, I've noticed that the mental health and the behavioral health system definitely have some gaps that need to be filled. So I feel like Princess and I being able to be in this space with you will allow us that opportunity and allow you guys the support and capacity to do all of the great things that we need for all Coloradoans. So thank you for allowing us to be here. Well, actually, no thanks. Michelle, you know what's up. Super grateful for you always being a part of Family Voice Council and our lives personally. I've never met someone in the how can I say it? Not someone in her stature, but you guys, you come in to these spaces and you have these hats on, and it's like, this is who I am, and I'm Michelle Barnes, and I'm your boss, and it's like, she never did that with us at the Family Voice Council. She took that hat and she turned it to the side, and she got her hands a little bit dirty with us and said, well, what can I do? Like, yeah, hurt my feelings, because this is what needs to happen in order for some great things to be done. So, I really hope that we don't hurt your feelings anymore, Michelle, because I think you've grown some really thick skin fooling up with us over there at the Family Voice Council. So thank you so much for having us here. Chelsea, thank you for bringing Princess and I on. And I am super excited to work with everyone, especially Tasha.
Thank you, thank you. I just want to acknowledge right quick, there is a question in the Q&A. It says, thank you all council members for sharing your time and expertise with us. How could we connect with your group when we have new initiatives we are looking to brainstorm, including your perspective when we look to implement some of our directives? I responded to that, like, great question. Let me find the answer. So if we can all work together, or get, if Megan or anybody else has any input on that, I would appreciate that. And time check, we have 10 minutes till break.
Thank you for bringing that question in the Q&A, Tasha. We will get that answered. And then I also wanted to open it up. As Tasha mentioned, we have a few more minutes until break. And so, Tasha, I will pass it to you it looks like we've got some questions from BHAAC members. So would love to hear your perspective and your thoughts on the Family Voice of BHA having our own Family Voice Council.
Are you asking me or other people?
Sorry, Tasha, I was just asking you if you want to take the lead on calling on folks with their hands up.
Yes, I can do that if I can see them as good.
Tasha, can I add one comment?
Yeah, go right
with
ahead.
your permission, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just want to be clear. The Advisory Council is not going away. We just went through it. The Advisory Council is here to stay. It's in statute. In addition, we want to do a Family Voice Council, and I'm so grateful that people from, one of the best Family Voice Councils in the United States are willing to help us form a Family Voice Council. But it's two things. So it's more voices, not changing Advisory Council to a Family Voice Council. So just being clear there. And back to you, Tasha.
Thanks for that clarity, Michelle.
Yes, thank you for that clarity.
So I just have a quick question, and this involves like both the Family Voice Council at CDHS and the Family Voice Council at the BHA that's going to be, in inception in the early 2024. And this always like, I know people represent this, but what is the definition of family? Like what is like, is it single parents raising a child? Is it a gay couple or a triple couple raising 10 children? Like, what is a family and how does it relate to that family having lived experience in basically behavioral mental health? And also, is substance use and abuse represented in family voice councils as well? Like, I need to know what a family is and whether or not just mental health, but substance use and abuse or substance use disorders are also a part of it as well, because recovery covers more than just mental health, diagnoses and stuff like that. And families are definitely defined more. Like, I'm single with a pet and that's my family, so it's like, that's my service dog, that's my one family member, and I treat him like my kid. So but he's a dog, but he's my kid.
Can I chime in on that, Seth? Because I really liked your question. And with me being a part of the Family Voice Council and as well as the BHA Advisory Council and peer mentor on all the stuff that I'm doing, like, it takes a village to raise a child. And so what we're doing is we're wanting to look 2 gens from now. So at our children on how to better the system and how we work together. And working together is what creates that family, is because we all have the same passion, the same mission, and it brings us closer together. And that's just been my experience with the Family Voice Council. Like, we collaborate and we're a village for change. So I just want to put my input in on that. But thank you for your concern, Seth. If Chelsea or Princess Mac or Queen has anything else they'd like to say.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Seth. Family is all encompassing for us. And I would agree that some of our members are very much like you. Their service dog is their family. And then Family Voice Council also plays a part in being a family once we were created. But our youngest member is 17 and our oldest member, a part of our network, is approaching 90. So family is an all-encompassing youth, a family member with a lived experience. And then I think too, your lived experience questions around substance use, mental health. I will work with the BHA team to, have as inclusive of a list as possible when it comes to this. But the only prerequisite is that you have at least 2 lived experiences in human services. And for us, our membership, I would say 95% of our current membership, even though it's at human services, has a lived experience within behavioral health as well. So we will work on that list, but I would just hope that when we do start recruiting, that we provide examples of what a substance use, mental health, or crisis, or any other service that you would recommend on that application to be included.
Thank you for that, Chelsea. I don't know whose hand was up. I see all these hands. I know Raquel's is up. I know Queen's is up. I know there's 5 things in the chat right now. Like, I'm doing it. I don't know whose hand was up. So
I believe it's Carolyn Hall. Carolyn, go ahead.
Okay, Carolyn's was up too. Sorry about that, Carolyn. And we also have time check for break.
So sorry about that. So that was kind of clear on understanding that you have to have at least 2 experiences with human services. Does that count as, like, when I grew up, I was a foster sister to many foster sisters in the state of Colorado. So I witnessed this a lot. Plus, I also have a child with a disability who has been in the system. And so that would qualify. Also, I was really excited about the flyer. And I work on another committee where I chair, and I would really like to send this information to these family members because I think they could be a really strong voice for what they've gone through with their children and their family members.
What I can say is you all will be the first to know when we launch recruitment. So we will make sure that you have the materials that you need to pass it to anyone you think would be a great member. And Princess and Queen are going to be working on those recruitment materials. So we hope to definitely have them available in early January.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I see a lot of, I thank you guys for sharing that. I just want to do time check. I know that we got 3 minutes left and I'm seeing a whole bunch of hands up. So I don't know if we want to put those in chat or if we want to extend break a little bit. I don't know, to get those
I'll
questions.
be quick.
Raquel was next.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be quick. So,
Okay.
I love the idea of the council. My concern is that council had proposed that we had more meetings so that we could do greater work for ourselves, and told like we were restricted because the BHA did not have the bandwidth to care for us. And now we're adding another council to ourselves. And so my concern is for bandwidth of the BHA to be able to properly care for us and another council, because we were not honored our additional requests for meetings. And so I'm concerned that we're going to become at a bandwidth again, and that we might be at a deficit with another council, and that our communication would lack. And so it just makes me a little nervous while we're still establishing trust, is to add a whole nother lived experience council to ourselves at the same time. So I just want to know how the BHA plans to handle the workload, considering we have really struggled with that as a council in the past.
Chelsea, if you're still on with us, this is something Chelsea and I have talked about, is how CDHS's Family Voice Council will support us through this process. And so it will look different. And Raquel, I 100% assure you, BHAAC will continue to have the support we have now. We'll continue our same cadence moving forward. There's no plan to change BHAAC at all with the addition to this council.
Well, you also have other council members in the chat also agreeing that, you know, like I said, we asked for additional time to do our work, and we were declined that because of bandwidth. Now we're getting another council. Not that I'm anti-council, it's just that we were already denied extra time for the work we wanted to do. And I see that Jamie, you know, has some thoughts around that, and same with Rob. So we don't have to have an answer today, but it is a concern of mine.
Absolutely, Raquel. I absolutely value that and share it as well. That was one of my first thoughts in coming up with this. And so we've had a lot of discussion around making sure that we build in capacity around this.
Yeah, and we don't plan to take any of the bandwidth away from BHA staff right now. I know they're overwhelmed, which is why I, Queen, and Princess will be stepping in to help with this. And I believe, Megan, you're also looking at hiring. So you have my full support as far as bandwidth, not to take away from the advisory council, but only to enhance and support the work of the Family Voice Council.
Thank you for that, Chelsea. We are at 10:15 for break. I do want to add to the council members, if you got time and you want to look at like the structure and stuff like that, there is the Family Voice Compass that is on the CDHS website under Family Voice Council. You guys can go ahead and take a look at that if you want to gain a little bit more knowledge. So on that, I took a minute up, so I'm going to adjourn for break. How long's break? According to the
till 10:30,
Tasha. 15 minutes.
Karen Renee has her hand up, and I think we should hear from her before we break.
I agree. I second that. Thank you, Seth. Renee Anderson, go ahead.
Can you hear me right now?
Yes.
Okay. I just had a quick question. I'm just wanting to know what are some examples that the Family Voices has accomplished?
Well, that is certainly going to take much more.
Yeah, we don't even have time for that.
Right. But we'll be more than happy to answer. I don't want to
email you.
Break, but we'll be more than happy to answer that once we come back from break.
Also, I can drop a link to one of our 3-year annual reports in the chat, so you can take a look at some examples.
That would be great, Chelsea. And Chelsea, if you can share that with me directly, I will email it out to all BHAAC members right after the meeting.
All right. So adjourn for break. See you guys back here at 10:30 sharp for the commissioner's briefing. Dun dun dun. See you guys. One. Are we early by a minute? Or are we on time? Is everybody back yet?
My clock says 1 minute early.
Okay. Mine says 1:29 on both my phones. So yeah, we're probably a minute early. About 30 seconds. All right. It's 10:30. Let's call 10:30. Have everybody come back from break. Yay. Hope you enjoyed your short, fast break. All right. And now, is everybody back? Megan, can you see?
I can see majority. I would say go ahead, Tasha. I can't tell if some people are still off camera, but I think we should go ahead.
All right, let me pull the agenda. It is time for the commissioner's briefing. So with further ado, drum roll, please. I'm going to pass the torch over to interim Commissioner Michelle Barnes for our commissioner briefing.
Thanks, Tasha.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a good meeting so far. So I have pages and pages of notes. So thank you all for being so expressive. I also want to say over the last 2 months between our last meeting, Megan and I and Dr. Donna Haynes, who's listening in, had an opportunity to talk with many of you. Not everybody yet, but many of you. And we have learned a lot about what your expectations are for this council, where you've seen things that didn't meet your expectations, where your hopes and dreams are. And I think today you'll see an example of some of the things we learned from you that we're trying to do better on. One of them was, it was really clear you guys want material sent out in advance and not just in writing. And so we've responded, and hopefully that'll make it easier for all of you to be access this incredibly complex material that we deal with every day, but you don't. So it's, we need to make sure we're delivering the information in a way that works for you. So I'm really thankful for all of you who have been able to make time to have those conversations, and look forward to continuing to do them. I did put my contact information in the chat, and just to be clear on sunshine laws, I can talk to any one of you. It's when you guys gather to do business, that's when it has to be a public meeting, and that's transparency to the state of Colorado. But I can talk one-on-one, Megan can, Kristen can, we can talk with you. We just can't conduct business, behind closed doors. It's got to be in the front. And I know there's been a lot of rumors about conversations that have happened and alleged dinners. And I just want to let you know, we are following the sunshine laws to the letter. I have not been having secret dinners with people. If I have a dinner with one of you, I'll probably take a picture and put it on my Instagram. That's just not how we want to conduct business, but I am willing to meet with you. I've gotten a chance to come out and see many of your places of business, and that's been fantastic. It's really helped me be a better commissioner for the Behavioral Health Administration. So continue to invite, and I will continue to accept. So I really appreciate that. And so one of the things I picked up from talking to all of you is that you're asking for a lot of grace to meet what your needs are. And it made me realize, I don't know if I've been really formal about asking for grace for the BHA. We've been in business for a little over a year. We're on our second commissioner, me, soon to have a third one. That's a lot of change and a lot of things happening. The legislature has an amazingly high hopes for what we're going to do and what we're going to accomplish, and they have piled it on. And right now we still have about 40 or 50 open positions that we have not yet hired for. So we're doing the work of a fully operational agency, but we're not fully operational. We have about 130 employees right now. And many of those are doing work that existed before the BHA. They're doing licensing, they're doing QA, they're doing contracting, really important components of the BHA mission. So we're looking forward to continuing to hire and continuing to be able to provide more against, the dream and the vision for the BHA. We're just not there yet, but we're doing our best on that. So I'll ask for a little grace on that, but I'll also ask, someone said it really well, that one of the ways to make us all work together is for all of us to own our own mistakes. And Tasha, all of our positions are open for people with lived experience. I can tell you, getting to know the BHA staff, I don't think there's one person here who doesn't have their story. Everybody's got a story. We're not here as, that's the filter we see a lot of things in. So I can tell you, it's a beautiful team of people, and we do embrace people with lived experience on the staff and encourage it. In fact, I'll leave it at that. But yes, we're hiring, and, we would love people with lived experience if any of you are interested in joining us. But I'd also like to own up to the mistakes we've made and the mistakes I've made. So I'll start by just asking for your grace and an apology to you that this advisory council hasn't gone the way I think we all hoped and dreamed it would be. And I take ownership for that. I really want to make sure this council feels safe, and it feels productive, and it feels like a great use of your time, and that it's actually something that can really help us reform the behavioral health system for everybody. I can say specifically, this council has really made me much more aware of people with substance use conditions, and that's really helped me think much broader, as an example. But I do want to own some of the mistakes we've made and some of the mistakes I've made, and ask for your forgiveness. A couple of them was, we should have been sending out agendas like we sent out this month, from the beginning, and you have our commitment, we'll do that. I'm particularly embarrassed that we asked you guys to write your own bylaws. That's not something any advisory council in the state of Colorado has ever asked to do. That was, I don't know why, and it doesn't matter, but we're fixing that. We provide bylaws for your review, because everything has to go through the Attorney General, and it's already been written. There's so many bylaws already written. I'm so sorry we asked you guys to take that on. That wasn't fair, and it wasn't appropriate. I apologize about the changeover of staff, and there's going to continue to be turnover as I'm interim. And we are working really hard to have the leadership team locked in. And I would do a special shout out to Tasha and Dr. Rob and Dr. Lee Lynn for helping us on that, because they all joined search committee interviews. And I will say that is a process we need to keep at the BHA going forward. The questions you guys asked, the way you showed up really helped us narrow to candidates that are really appropriate for BHA. So thank you. And that's something I've learned that whenever there's a senior position open, we will invite someone to join us for that. And it's something we're sharing with some of the other hires in the state. We would love to have you guys as available to join panels. It really added a really good flavor. So I appreciate that. I think my biggest apology is that we didn't have time to develop trust and transparency. And that's not how you have a high performing team. We are looking at moving at least one meeting a year in person. It's really hard to connect and feel safe if you haven't met. Like, Tasha, you're a good example. When you came in to do these panel interviews, we got to know each other and we got to meet at the Family Voice Council. And so now I feel like I have a level of trust and comfort with you that I didn't have just from a Zoom call. And that makes the difference as we're tackling with some really hard issues. So you have our commitment that at least one meeting a year will be in person, and we'll see if we can do more than that. And I understand you're a distributed group, and that's okay. We will figure this out, because it is important to come together and have a meal and break some bread and get to know each other and have some fun together. So look forward to doing that. I also know many of you, as we were talking, said these meetings didn't feel safe. They didn't feel respectful of expectations that had been set. It didn't feel safe psychologically. Our facilitation was not allowing everybody to have a voice and speak up, and every person on this council is equal, and every person on this council is here for a reason. And so we want to make sure we've created a situation where everybody gets to have voice and speak up and is respected and listened to. So we are trying. We could always use more comments on that and how we do it. So I just want to start that this council hasn't, I'm not happy with the way BHA and myself have shown up in this council, and we will do better. And you have our commitment, and with your support and with your advice, we will continue to do better. So know that we are trying. We're experimenting on some things. We're listening. I hope you feel like a lot of things we've been implementing are based on feedback we got directly from you guys. And I think you'll see, I hope you'll see a pivot and feel really good about your ability to influence the behavioral health system in Colorado. So I'm going to pause on that. I have a couple more updates, but I'm going to pause because that's a lot.
Commissioner, this is Tasha Conker here. I just want to tell you, thank you. Like, you have left me a little flabbergasted with the words that you spoke, and thank you for taking accountability for the bylaws. Yo, our team did it. We did it the best without having any guidance. So I got to give a shout out to them. The council, like, we've all stuck together, but today, thank you for those words. Thank you. That's all I can say. Thank you for taking the accountability that we've been asking for.
Okay. Jamie and Rob, I see both your hands up.
Yeah, Michelle, thank you so much. I just want to echo what Tasha said. It's just really refreshing to have this conversation at this meeting today. So appreciate all of that. And, just look forward to moving forward in a really positive way. And so thank you for those comments.
You bet. Dr. Rob.
Yeah, I want to say the same thing. First of all, I want to just point out that this isn't all on you, but I appreciate you. I appreciate the apology and you being willing to speak with us and even inviting us to be a part of the interviews and just get to know you. And you did come down and see our facility, and it was great spending time with you. I agree. FaceTime is the best. I've got to hang out with Raquel and cross-train each other's staff, and it just makes a huge difference in building those relationships. But again, I want to thank you for your leadership and your accountability here, but I want to say this is not 100% on you, but I really appreciate what you're saying.
Thanks, Rob. Well, I have a couple other updates. I don't see any other hands that I want to give you just in the business portion. BHA and all state agencies are now moving into budget. It is budget season. We submitted our budgets many, many moons ago, but the governor will soon, the governor's released his budget, which is all of us agencies get to go in and debate and fight and argue and advocate for our budgets. And then the governor decides what the budget is that he's going to put forward to the legislature. That has happened. And at this point, now the legislature and the Joint Budget Committee are going to start arguing over it and making decisions. So anyway, we are in that season. December is the month where a lot of leadership spends a lot of long days in meetings going through our budget and going through statutory recommendations. So just know that's where our heads are going to be for the next month. I also want to say we have fully embraced bringing in a firm to help us with all of our equity and justice work. They're called the Equity Project. They are top notch. I am so proud that they're willing to work with us, and they've already brought some great ideas. They joined our all hands meeting, and they're now doing some focus groups and some dive-ins on what we're doing in equity to really help us become not just an equitable organization, but also to make sure we're building equity into the behavioral health system. Dr. Donna Haynes is also helping consult with us on it. She works at CDHS, but has been very generous with her time to help us put our equity priorities together. So I'm very excited about that. Also want to mention that the Family Voice Council, I appreciate some of the questions you guys had about how we'll work two councils. I would say this is an opportunity where we are really leaning into CDHS, which is the agency we're embedded within, to get their support on us as we launch this. We do not have the capacity to launch a Family Voice Council on our own, and we've decided, Chelsea's been gracious to offer to do that, but also getting some of the alumni of the Family Voice Council to come and give back and help us set it up, I think is a really good model. You guys have talked a lot about how important peers are, and we're implementing that. Rather than us doing it, we're getting people that have done it to help us set it up right based on their experience. So I'm very thankful for Princess Mac and Queen to do that. The last thing I wanted to mention is the search for the commissioner continues. And I don't have much more to add than that, other than the governor's continuing to meet with candidates and continuing to interview people. So we have clear expectations when an announcement does come. It is a governor's office announcement. We will not hear any sooner. The staff at BHA, we won't know any sooner than everyone else. And it'll be announced through a press release through the governor's office. So we can make sure that the press release is forwarded to all of you, but there will not be I don't get pulled into a room and get a secret conversation, and then Kristen and Tom and Stephen get pulled in a room, and that's not how it'll roll out. It'll be under embargo from the governor and then announced through the press. So on that, I'm just going to pause. Anything I didn't cover or any questions anybody has?
Commissioner, there is a Q&A from an anonymous attendee asking, has there been an apology to Raquel Garcia for the treatment that occurred in the meeting earlier this year? And how is this work going to be integrated into helping with the staff's work?
I'll answer the first part, and then maybe you can be more explicit on what you mean by the second part of the question. Yes, Raquel and I have had opportunity to get to know each other and talk, and I have apologized to her for any and everything that I've done to make this feel like a place that she's not feeling comfortable, that she's not getting to bring her best self. And I think we're in a good place, but I won't speak for you. Raquel, do you want to comment on that? Okay, maybe not. What's the second part of the question, Tasha? And if Raquel pops in, we can go back
It
to
just says, how is this work going to be integrated into helping with the staff's work? And I just want to do a time check. We are 3 minutes over for our next presentation.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand that question, but if somebody wants to give more information in their private chat to me or through Tasha, I'm happy to answer that.
I do want to point out that that is an anonymous attendee, so that may
Yes.
be a public comment. So Tasha, just as a reminder, we will answer all public questions in the last
Okay.
minute.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to be very attentive to the people that are asking questions, so our whole space is safe for everybody.
Absolutely appreciate you.
So on that note, we are at 10:48, which is 3 minutes past our agenda time. Is there anything else from the commissioner or anybody else? I don't know. I can't see hands, so.
Well, feel free to chat me in the chat or call or email or whatever. If it's in the chat, I'll answer real time.
Okay. All right. So if anybody has any follow-up, you can contact the commissioner. So at this time, I am going to move us right along since we're a little bit over and dive into the grievance report overview and discussion. I don't know who's presenting, so I'm going to pass it over to whoever is presenting this.
Thank you, Tasha. I'm happy to introduce Stephen Ma from our safety net team, from our quality and standards. He's our quality and standards enforcement manager. Welcome, Stephen. And thank you so much, Stephen, for the preparation you put into this presentation. Stephen prepared a short video for you all. He wrote a summary, so you all would have plenty of time to have an idea of what he will be sharing with you all today. So with that, I'll pass it over to Stephen.
Thanks so much, Megan, and really appreciate the opportunity to be here. So let me get started with good morning, council members. My name is Stephen Ma. My pronouns are he, him, and I am the enforcement manager for the Behavioral Health Administration's Quality and Standards team. A little about me, I'm a Colorado native. I really enjoy getting out in the great outdoors and spending time with my friends and family. I've worked for the state of Colorado for nearly 14 years doing administrative enforcement work. I've worked in the fields of environmental protection. I worked in emergency medical service licensure, and now I work in behavioral health licensure. I have a passion for public service, and I'm just really pleased to join you today to present the BHA's work on the grievance system. As we already mentioned in advance of this meeting, I had prepared a summary document and video for you. And today I have the opportunity to elaborate on that information, to take your questions, and then I would welcome your input and answers to a few questions about our growth of the grievance system. And actually, if I could get the next slide, please. So maybe a good starting point is actually to work on what our definition of grievances are for purposes of this meeting and talking about the grievance system. So I use that term broadly. It's broad in this context to refer to any information received by BHA about a concern within our state's behavioral health system. And so grievances submitted to the BHA, they could come from an individual or an organization. It could include people that are seeking or receiving services or from their family member or caregiver. It could come from staff at a behavioral health facility. It could come from other state agencies or members of the general public. Another category of grievances that come into us is from licensed behavioral health agencies that make mandatory critical incident reports to us and make us aware of concerns or issues that way. For all grievances from any source, the BHA staff reviews and investigates the matter to determine the best course of action as guided by our rules. Sometimes there's opportunities for maybe care coordination to assist in connecting individuals with care. Other times, a violation of BHA rules might be established by looking into that. And if that's the case, staff takes action to resolve the issue and return licensed agencies into compliance with our rules. Whether or not there are opportunities like care coordination or in some cases a licensing action that may be appropriate, BHA uses all grievance information to learn about opportunities to improve our rules, our services, and our organization. I wanted to mention at this point some of the staff, the folks that are working on these processes within BHA, and I have to give a shout out to Chelsea Zemer. She's been our ombudsman liaison dating back to even before the start of the BHA, and in my opinion, Chelsea just does an incredible and fabulous job, and shows so much compassion as she works with complainants, explains our processes, gathers the information she needs. She spends time on the phone with folks. She spends time in email correspondence. She just does a really incredible job of making herself available and giving a person to get this information to and coordinate with. And I'm really pleased to announce that soon our team will also be adding another grievance officer position that will support the grievance response work that we're doing, and will also help us be a champion for the development of the BHA system-wide grievance process that I'm going to describe more in just a few moments here. The last thing I would just say about Chelsea's work, so I mean, not only does she do that front-end work, but she's just such a key point person in helping coordinate and get information to the proper staff. She works directly with referring over to care coordination. She also works on helping us get referrals or other agencies involved in situations where it seems appropriate as well. But ultimately, with myself and Chelsea and then another team member we're looking forward to coming on board with us, we're there to support the grievance investigations by working with complainants and supporting the licensing staff as they look into these issues. Next, as you see on the bullet point there, I'm going to touch on the grievance report. So the first annual grievance report for the first year of BHA was published back in June. And in that report, staff collected and analyzed grievance information from the BHA's first year of existence. So the data that is in the report looked at grievance submissions, so complaints and critical incident supports from July of 2022 through April of 2023. And the licensing team received over 1,500 critical incident reports, and we had 150 complaints that we received and processed. Both the complaints and the critical incident reports were categorized to reflect the primary concerns that were presented. And for that first report, our observation was that the most prominent complaint concerns related to quality of care issues. And we observed that the most prominent critical incident report category pertained to medical emergencies. With BHA's commitment to producing the grievance reports every year, tracking these grievance trends will be a really important way to identify both our areas of need and also areas of improvement that we've made, kind of gains that we've made as a staff and as an agency, as we continue to grow and evolve the grievance system. Another couple elements I wanted to call out from the report. One looked at, we had a series of complaints that were in regard to denials of service. And I think this was a really interesting case study for us. We were able to really dig into those and look at the reasons that those denials took place, better understand those situations and some of the shortcomings in our rules. And it really helped highlight some of the changes that are already being undertaken through the new BHA rules, the new statutory and regulatory requirements in regard to the safety net, which stand to decrease denials and better serve our community. So I think that that's a good example of how looking at grievance information can tell us areas that we're being successful and also can help us identify areas that we need to grow. The report also called for the continued evolution and improvement of the grievance process by committing adequate staff and technology resources over time and seeking ongoing stakeholder feedback. If I could get the next slide, please. Thanks so much. So next, I'm going to turn to where we go from here. What's next for us? From the discussion about where we are with grievances, I want to talk about where we're required to go. The statutes creating the BHA, they mandate the creation of a system-wide behavioral health grievance system. The system needs to collect and analyze grievances to find and address service delivery gaps and inform the development of behavioral health policy. And this process needs to be implemented by July 1st of next year. The Behavioral Health Grievance System statute specifically calls for soliciting input from the Behavioral Health Administration Advisory Council and a diverse stakeholder group. Or I should say groups, really. It's not just one group, but we're going to be looking for a broad kind of coalition of folks to help give us input. This task calls for BHA staff to engage in discussion, listening, and learning that will lead and inform action and commitment to ongoing changes in policies and approach to meet the needs of Coloradans. So BHA staff also under the statute is required to create data sharing agreements with other agencies that include but aren't limited to the Ombudsman for Medicaid managed care, the Ombudsman for behavioral health access to care, and the Child Protection Ombudsman. In addition to the work to connect with stakeholders and gather their input on the grievance system and the task to grow and improve our collaboration with sister agencies, our staff will also need to coordinate efforts throughout the internal workings of the BHA, including between our licensing team in quality and standards, our statewide programs, our intergovernmental and community engagement, our systems and programs teams, and our policy team. At this point, before we get to our discussion, I'd be glad to take your questions about what I've presented here today.
Looks like we have Jamie's hand up. Jamie, please go ahead. And you can either raise your hand or put the question in the Q&A and we will address it. Jamie, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Just curious as to if there's going to be like a dashboard that posts some of the grievances or maybe data around how many grievances are coming in, how many have been resolved, and just kind of the transparency around the grievance process, so we know what has maybe come out of some of the grievances as it relates to improvements in the system.
Yeah, it's an excellent question, and yes, I think a big part of this lift is to work on that transparency piece and the access to the information. So with the initial take of the annual grievance report that was prepared for this year, there is information about the counts and the categorizations. There is some information about some of the grievance responses. I think over time, it's really important that information is increased and that there is more access to understand the types and the subject matter of grievances that come in and how they're handled. And then also to your last point, I think that piece of actually connecting information that's received and analyzed and what's the actual change is really critical in order to show the development of the system, to reflect the learning that's taking place. And also that's the way that the improvement process works.
And on to the next question. Did that answer your question, Jamie?
Seth, go ahead.
Yeah, I read over the annual report and there was some observations that I made. Just briefly, I want to kind of acknowledge that between the first 3 or 4 months of the BHA's existence and then the change in, you know, commissionership had an impact on some of the complaints and some of the grievances, just based on possible leadership. And that's not saying anything negative about the interim commissioner or anything. It's just saying that like that observation of like, you know, Dr. Medlock was also very valuable and very like happy to like start the BHA and like give us all selected, you know, seats on the council and whatnot. And so I just looked at the bar graph and saw that in the complaints and grievances situation from when she left. And I want to acknowledge all of her great work for getting this started and probably not having as many grievances, I'd say. And then also I was kind of curious when the BHA in the description of grievances and complaints kind of said that this doesn't pertain to BHA rules or regulations, that this is another issue and we disagree with the person bringing the grievance and basically having no follow-up, or not necessarily like there was one example of someone going to 10 mental health centers and being rejected each time because of like some not meeting all the requirements to get services. And so from the peer perspective, I want to know, like, how could the BHA not like help that person get the services they needed when they are probably the best advocate for themselves? Like, they know what's wrong with them, they know what they need in order to feel like the system is working positively for them and that the system is getting better and that they have a place where they can file a grievance or where they can be heard, and at the BHA level of investigation, that the investigation won't just simply say, oh, by the way, you know, this isn't BHA domain, or we investigated and found none of the mental health centers like, you know, non-compliant or anything, but you know, also they need to do something to like get that person into care, even if it's not the type of care that is BHA rule considered. Like, and it said the BHA rules that are coming out for next year would address it better in the future, but like that's what really stood out to me, those two things. And I really appreciate the work of the annual report, and I would like to, I'm happy that like 60 to 70% of these grievances have been addressed and that have been finalized. But I would also like to see some of the grievances as a council member to know, like, why was, you know, the hospitalization and the other like top grievance or not just grievance, but like incident report was, I want to know what those two categories had the most of. Why were they the most? Is it about care? And why is it about care? And like, you know, what hospitalizations are we talking about being the biggest risk? Or is it people going to the hospital? Or, you know, those are things I want to know. I want to see charts. I want to see examples. I want to see quotes. I want to know stuff. That's it.
Thank you so much for your comments, and I really appreciate your thoroughness and having reviewed the report. I think that that's really, really insightful. So I would say in part that we have a starting point with that first report, and I think that there's a lot of room for growth. And so I think that I've heard a couple of times that having more specificity to the information. So I think finding ways to do that that's appropriate and properly protects, is thoughtful of patient information and all those types of things, is great feedback. And I think that is a great way to look towards future report outs so that folks have more information to work off of and can better understand these issues. I wanted to go back a little bit to the frustration over, I don't want to miscategorize that, but kind of mentioning the fact that with the denials, it was an area where we didn't have a regulatory authority to take action at. And just speaking really frankly, with existing statutory or regulatory requirements, there can be areas that can be improved, that we don't have as much of a rule to enforce to kind of get the outcomes that we want. And
do you guys take this like recommendations to the legislature to change those like rules or regulations, like, or is it within the BHA that you have the ability to change those regulations? And from all these grievances, like, are you going to the legislature and saying we need to improve this because the patients and the peers involved with getting the care and the services, this is happening to them, and this is like a lot of the grievances that we've had? Like, sorry to interrupt you, but that's kind of like what I also want to know is where does it go next?
Sure. So to that point, go ahead, Tom.
Forgive my interruption. I can speak to some of that. First, my name is Tom Miller. I'm the interim deputy commissioner. He, him, his are my pronouns. I would also like to add in my preface that Stephen was very kind to give a lot of thanks to Chelsea, and that is certainly deserved. But I would also like to say thank you in public to Stephen, who was the primary author of that first grievance plan, and not only did a fantastic job with that, but really professionalizing and standardizing our entire grievance system and creating a routinized method for investigation and coordinating with the licensing and designation managers to conduct those investigations and then review those. I would also extend his thanks to you, Seth, for your very careful read of that report, and what I would personally say are your very insightful and savvy questions about the report and really about the BHA's role in conducting investigations and handling grievance reports. The first thing I wanted to point out is that the BHA and OBH, for that matter, has always heard complaints and grievances since its inception. So that's nothing new for the BHA. Part of what happened with the authorizing legislation that created the BHA was to expand the scope and authority of BHA in exactly the way that you're talking about. So it's not just do we conduct an investigation, and for those particular facilities for whom we have regulatory oversight, we could do something about and then tell the complainant, sorry, we don't have regulatory authority. With, and as you rightly pointed out, the change in the regulations, which will be effective January 1st of 2024, we will have the authority to work with other departments and other organizations that we don't necessarily have direct regulatory oversight over them, but to work with them to make sure that their systems also find solutions for people that have filed grievances. So that's a huge component of what this system-wide grievance system is designed to do. So I think your questions and your concerns about that are directly on point. I think you've also touched. Oh, it looks like you wanted to.
I was going to say, I would like someone from this council or someone from your guys' peer council or family voices council, like maybe all three councils or whatever, be a part of the process of like solving some of these investigation problems, like from having them in the very beginning help come up with answers and solutions to some of these complaints and grievances, not giving them authority to like make decisions, but like to advise on how to help handle such grievances and complaints. Because, you know, we are the people that work with the system, and, you know, we're here to represent various Colorado constituencies, and having us involved, not just for hiring, but also for the grievance process would be valuable, I think, for the BHA going forward.
We are on the same page, and it's really why I so rudely interrupted Stephen, because I wanted to get to that point that you made. When Michelle and I presented to the State Board of Human Services, one of the things that they asked for, and really one of the things that we said to them, was a concept that we've been working on for the past 6 months or so, is how we involve external constituents, and I'm using the term very, very broadly, but folks that are outside of BHA to be a part of our review of grievance data. And by the way, even though it's outside of the scope of this particular question, but also review regulatory waivers. Those two things were something that the board asked us about in particular, and that we've been talking about with people with lived experience, provider organizations, advocacy organizations, about involving them in those particular efforts. So we are 100% aligned, Seth, that that's a way we want to involve this BHAAC community to help us review what we're seeing in terms of grievances. And then to your, another excellent point you made, how we perhaps ask for different kinds of legislation, and more specifically, how we would change some of our regulations based on the trends in grievance data that we're seeing. So I just wanted to give a very detailed answer to your excellent questions about how that is 100% the plan. And then once again, I apologize to Stephen for interrupting him, and maybe I should turn it back over to Stephen. Is there anything that you think I left out, or anything, Stephen, that you would want to add to that?
I'm sorry, Stephen, for interrupting you too. I just get passionate.
It was me.
Not a problem. I appreciate both of you kind of coming in and letting your thoughts known. Seth, I did already make some notes around this. I think it kind of jumps ahead to kind of talking about opportunities and kind of some of the responses to this grievance system presentation. And I really echo what Tom said. I think you're getting right to the root of it, Seth, which is that ultimately a system-wide grievance process needs to take the information and actually apply it to whatever policy changes or regulatory, or in some cases, statutory changes need to happen to affect the appropriate change.
Thank you, Seth, so much for your insight on all of that. I want to give enough time for other council members. And I also want to thank the presenters for going into detailed information for us advisory council. I don't know who had their hand up first, but I think Carolyn Hall and then Renee Anderson.
Yes, thank you very much. And I do want to say, I appreciate you recognizing that grievances is a way of creating healthier systems for all people of Colorado. But I'm wondering, I'm curious because I think like when I've worked with people on grievances in the past, it's always like, I just don't want that therapist or provider or agency to be there. But there's other solutions, right? So when you sit down and you're able to talk to them about what do they think they can do to help improve that person, that system, that center, then I think it becomes more powerful, right? Because it's coming from the people with lived experience and people utilizing the services themselves. So, because I also know that sometimes people assume, well, this is what's going on, so I think this is what we should be doing instead of asking the people themselves. So I kind of wanted to put that out there to see is the success of creating better systems coming from the people themselves who are filing the grievances. And then also I wanted to ask about something like I know that I think it's good that it's going to be required to execute data sharing agreements with other state agencies. But I also understand that I have concerns about shared information or personal information with people in agencies and centers due to the experience of working with people on the Colorado support line who are homicidal, often have
Suicide.
threats. And so the reality is that we don't always know what a person's intent is. So I was just curious because I know Cora, the Colorado Open Records Act says, yeah, we can give out personal information about people in agencies to people in society, or out in public. But what do you do to screen or to make sure that these people are not utilizing this information to create harm or have ill intent to the people that they're angry at in an agency?
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Carolyn. So in terms of, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but in terms of protections of information, there's some really specific statutory requirements in terms of what information can and cannot be shared. And with any type of data sharing agreement that we enter into, that would be first and foremost in our minds would be making sure that we are following the rules governing what we can share, and also verifying that that information would be properly protected wherever it ends up, to make sure that we don't have anyone who has their personal information shared or exploited out there in the world. So I would just assure you that that is something that is absolutely paramount to any of these data sharing agreements. And really, it's talking about going to other agencies, so CDPHE, potentially, sometimes we are involved with HICPA or other folks within CDHS. There's these ombudsman offices. All of these offices and agencies under the state also have legal protections in regard to patient information that may come to them. And we'd be very, very careful around any of that to make sure that there's not mistakes made in regard to that information.
Thanks, Stephen. I think Renee Anderson has her hand up. Renee, go ahead.
Okay, so I just have a couple of questions. Will these grievances, do they cover grievances like with non-emergency medical transport to facilities? Or is that under somewhere else?
Looks like you're done talking, so you'll.
Yeah, so Renee, in terms of transport, I don't know specifically under the scenario you're talking about if that may kind of be something that has some cross kind of jurisdiction. I mean, it's possible that there could be elements of that that would be under BHA. It occurs to me that there also could be elements of that that could be covered under CDPHE.
Right.
And what occurs to me is that this is a big part of the data sharing. Is it's not just about we're going to send, like making the arrangements for data to be sent over. It's really also about really digging in and identifying what is under each jurisdiction. So, with something like a transport, if that's not an issue that falls directly under BHA, it would be identifying that that's an issue that could be covered by another agency. And if that's the case, making sure that that information gets over there. But it's not, again, I just want to say it's not just sharing the data, it's actually making sure that we're being effective, making sure that there's not kind of a hole in the system where, a complaint just kind of falls in the middle and doesn't go to either our agency or another agency to be dealt with. So I don't know specifically the details of the transport that you're talking about, but that's like the general idea of how data sharing and looking for gaps in kind of services or gaps in having grievances be effective for us would work.
Okay. And then one other question I have is in following the trends and following with the data, will you be following, say, somebody who is filing a grievance every time they turn around, or even following a lot of people filing grievances about the same thing? Will the data show those scenarios?
Yeah, so that's a really astute question. I think it's a really good question. So first and foremost, there's nothing that prevents, a complaint from being submitted, even if it's from the same person, even if they may have a high volume of complaints that they've submitted before. I mean, there's not any part of the process that judges that volume in terms of bringing it in and taking a look at the subject matter submitted in the grievance. Now, in terms of overlap, there could be multiple sources for the same information. There's a couple of things. So one would be in terms of looking into it, if we basically are hearing about the same type of incident from multiple different sources, then we really will combine that investigation because it's the same subject matter. So we might get more information from the different parts that are involved in that. But if the subject matter is the same, then we have the opportunity to kind of look at that complaint holistically and kind of gather that information from the various angles. In terms of how to look at that from a data perspective, I think it takes a next level of kind of sophistication probably for us to determine what the best way to collect that data is. Is it more meaningful to reflect how many different people or sources that may have come from? Or is that duplicative? Like, is it because it's the same maybe kind of incident or occurrence? If we kind of reflect how many people had sent that into us, is that going to kind of inflate numbers in a way that's not useful to us? So I think some of those are really questions that need to be answered as we're building out the system. What is the most meaningful data, or should that be flagged to reflect that it came from multiple different sources? I don't have an answer to that right now, but I think that is part of the process to think about as we're building the system out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tasha Conker here, they, them. I have a couple questions regarding how the behavioral health access to care is gonna implement into the justice system, especially in the judicial system when it comes to jails, incarceration, because that is a big gap right now throughout the state, is people that are already receiving mental health and behavioral health help with that, and then something happens and they get thrown in jail and then they're left without. So I just want to know how the grievance process is going to be incorporated into the judicial system with that. And also, my second question is our data that we're getting, is it good data and reliable data that we're bringing in so we can put reliable data out, because garbage in is garbage out. So I just want to clarify on that.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. If I could answer it maybe kind of in reverse, because I think that the second question is a little more straightforward. So the first grievance report, it's all within the realm of licensing grievance submissions. So part of the and so I would say that data that's processed there is very reliable data, and it comes kind of through. I had already talked about Chelsea. Chelsea really is the clearinghouse for all of that complaint and critical incident information that comes in. She does a really great job of doing quality assurance on it. If there's incomplete information, then she works to complete the information and really get that assembled. So I feel really confident about that data. Now, to the second part, I think it really touches on what does a system-wide grievance system look like? And it really will take integration of concern and information within the behavioral health system outside of just the work of the licensure team within quality and standards. There is a lot of other ways that concern information comes in. And so that's the internal work of the BHA, is really to identify the other ways that information about concerns outside of just licensed agencies is coming to us, coming up with ways to regularize how that information is captured. I already talked about how we categorize the types of complaints or critical incidents that come in. We probably need to have a system that standardizes some of those categories so that we can kind of compare complaint data or kind of concern information between those different segments. And part of that, I mean, obviously, we have a lot of different ways that we do that. We have licensed agencies, we have a lot of contracted agencies and statewide programs. We have folks that work in criminal justice. So I think that's the piece that kind of gets to what you're talking about, which is how are we talking about it together, and how is the team that works in criminal justice, for example, kind of getting that information, or how are we working together to address gaps that come out as people maybe move between those different systems and do that in a standardized way. So to me, is that part of it, Tasha? Absolutely. And what's the first step in kind of addressing that is really working on not just having each part of BHA work in silos, but having us communicate and work together.
Along through all the state agencies, there should be some sort of interpool where everybody can access the information that's needed, especially when it has to come with our Medicaid, because that's state paid, and it's paid. Medicaid also pays the judicial system for their services for the medications too. So it's a big cycle. So thank you for that.
Seth, I just wanted to say, Stephen, I really appreciate all the data and all of the numbers and that you and Chelsea and your department put together for the first annual report. And I said earlier that I would like to hear quotes or, statistics on, what the complaints or incidents are specifically about, if they involve people's voices or quotes or something like that. But I would also like to see a way that the BHA solved or had solution to that inquiry or that complaint. So kind of like the before and after of a grievance. I would like some examples of those brought to the BHAAC so that we kind of understand what the public is asking as far as grievances, and making sure as we represent Colorado that we represent those grievances, and that those grievances are having solutions found by the BHA, because that's how we improve care and service, is by not just having BHA staff read the quotes and understand what's going on, but getting the feedback ourselves so that we know what's going on, so that if we do need to like make more space for public comment in our meetings that to address those grievances, then maybe that's what we should do. But we should also have enough time for the BHA to present those grievances with those solutions in our meetings on a regular basis.
Tasha Conker here. I just have a quick question for some clarification because I'm a little confused, Seth. Are you saying that like the stuff that we need to make sure that the public is getting their accountability for their grievances, or because that, I don't know, that's a fine line, I feel like, right there.
No,
So I'm asking for clarification.
It's not about accountability. It's about us knowing what's going on as far as the grievances that are being submitted. And for us as the council who represent the people of Colorado, you know, to help find solutions, or to, and this is where I said it would be great to have representation on the grievance process from council members or other council members from their peer council or their family voice council or something. But it would also be good for us to know what solutions were done. So it is a little bit about accountability, but it's just more like informational, that we know what's going on, so we understand what complaints are being submitted, and not just that 30% of complaints was like, the wrong therapist or something. Like what happened with individual quoted complaints, and having more time in our meetings for public comment for people to, talk about those complaints if they want to be invited back and tell us their experience and about the solution that the BHA gave them regarding their complaint. We can't do that for everybody, but like, I think the before and after, and like the positivity, how the solution was handled, is going to be insightful for us to know where we should be going and advocating forward.
Speak to that very specifically. So again, this is Tom, interim deputy commissioner. We are in the process of designing a policy and a process which we will take back to the State Board of Human Services to say, here is how we want to involve the Colorado community, both in regulatory waivers and the grievance process. And what we've proposed, at least in conceptual terms, is that we have people with lived experience, advocacy organizations, provider organizations, and I very specifically mentioned BHAAC as a way to get to some of that on a committee that will review grievances. So in summary, want to make sure the State Board of Human Services feels comfortable with our approach. And then I think we come back to this body and say, here's where the state board is with our proposal, and here's how we can involve BHAAC, or at least people with lived experience on such a committee.
That would be great.
Thank you again for raising it.
Tasha Conker here. Would that be more like an accountability committee for the grievance process?
Thank you, Tasha. I think so. We haven't used those terms specifically, but that's really what we proposed, and what I think the state board wants is how we are transparent in terms of the kinds of complaints that we get and what we do systemically to address that. So again, the BHA and OBH before it addressed complaints in a one-off fashion. And I think that we did good work. The call of the legislation that created the BHA is how we take those individual complaints and what we learn from them as a group to create systemic change. So in terms of accountability committee, I think that that's the right concept, and that's what we need to do in partnership with you to improve behavioral health in the state of Colorado.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. And Raquel, absolutely, integrity and accountability committee. Thank you for and thank you, Tom, for answering those questions. Does anybody else have any other questions, concerns regarding the grievance system and how anything about the grievance? We have 10 more minutes till we go to public, till we move on to our next agenda. Anything else? Last comments, Tom and Stephen?
Tasha, if I could, so I think that we already kind of naturally transitioned to this, but if I could have us skip ahead a couple of slides. I had prepared some questions for us to kind of go over, and I think I think we could go ahead and probably put up all three bullet points at this point. I think that we've already talked quite a bit about that section 1, which is kind of, you know, gaps in the information and how to address some of the gaps. And I think all of the council members that shared some of their thoughts, I think that I've taken some really, I think, strong notes on some of those issues. But I think if anybody else had comments kind of in that realm, kind of things for us to think about as we're trying to really improve that system. The second question dealt with recommendations or are kind of folks for us to be thinking about involving groups, people that we just really think would be strong parts of a diverse stakeholder process about the grievance system. If anybody has recommendations around that, I'd welcome them. And then I also would take any feedback about how this council likes to be communicated with around this issue. I think, you know, written updates. I'd be glad to do additional video updates if people found that as a good way of kind of accessing information. If there is a call for additional kind of in-person space like this, that's something I can also work with Megan on.
Is there like anybody that hasn't shared right now about the grievance process, nor Catherine, Dr. Oberly, like, you know, Marina, like anybody that would like to say something about this and have this time to like share your insight? Because I don't want to take over, Tasha, but I think that would be great to hear from them.
You're good, Seth. You're good. Thank you.
I don't really have anything that hasn't been answered so far.
What about any input as from a provider standpoint? Do we have any input on that from providers on the council?
Carolyn Hall has her hand up. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Carolyn.
Yeah, I'm not a provider. Well, I'm a peer provider. But I wanted to say, like, someone had mentioned follow-up, and I think following up, making sure that things get resolved is very, very important. So I see that as a gap from my 23 years in the field in the past, and I think that would be something that would be very helpful. I think with the people, who have had grievance experiences as persons utilizing services, would probably be really good for stakeholders. Also, so they can talk about what has been successful and what hasn't. I think we could learn a lot from them. And I also feel Rocky Mountain Crisis Partners would be good as in the stakeholders in the process about the grievance systems, because they work with people throughout the state of Colorado. And so they might have some insight as to what would be helpful in making a grievance, in the group, making the grievance process, and what we're doing moving forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn, for sharing your input. It's greatly appreciated. I appreciate everybody's input. So thank you for sharing. I do want to do a time check. It is 11:43. We have 7 minutes till we move on to the next portion. So, anybody else? Written updates and video updates are awesome. So, that's my input there, especially for the people with disabilities and stuff that need that extra like video and written. So that's just my input. Thank you.
When I think about the grievance system, I just kind of go back on it. Sorry, my apologies. This is Queen. I kind of go back to the Family Voice Council, because you know, when you put a group of diverse folks in a room that don't know one another, it can get pretty sticky, right? So there was always either issues or communication situations, and definitely some grievances. I do remember specifically where I was triggered by a presenter after my son had gotten locked up in juvenile detention. So I wonder if when we talk about this grievance system, is this something that the Family Voice Council would be? Oh, I got that heart on my face my grandson gave me. I'm wondering, is that something that the Family Voice Council would be able to support the BHAAC with? Just putting that out there.
Don't know the direct answer to that, but that is definitely something that we can look into. And Stephen, I see your hand is up. I don't know if it's been up or if you were commenting on that as well. Sorry.
Thanks, Megan. I had put my hand up right before. I didn't know if there was additional comments or not, but Queen, thank you so much. I did add that to the list of potential parts of the stakeholder process and really appreciate that. If I could, I just wanted to also add that I know there's a lot of information here today. You've gotten to hear from me, you've gotten to hear from your colleagues on the council, and there may be things that come to mind after the fact. And I would encourage you to, and Megan, I hope this is okay. Let me know if there's a different process for this, but I think if there is additional answers to these questions or follow-up, if you could refer that to Megan, and then Megan can coordinate with me to get that information to me. If you think of folks that would be really strong within the stakeholder process or groups, if something comes to you in terms of a gap that you're seeing in the information that we've talked about, or kind of the process for building it out, doing the stakeholdering work, working out these different pieces to get there, those things come to you after the fact. If you could get that to Megan, I look forward to working with her on that.
And I think Carolyn has her hand up as well. Carolyn, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to ask also, because in the past I've also seen, like, when people do file a grievance, and they have a resolution that they feel might be helpful to them, how do you, what is the, so when a person is able to, oh God, I'm losing my train of thought. So when a person is retaliated against, what is there a discipline that happens when people file a grievance against someone? And they're retaliated against by that person, maybe passively or passively aggressive, or however it comes across. How do you discipline or to protect that person so that there is no retaliation that will hurt them? Thank you.
Yeah, Carolyn, I think that's really astute and very, very important. I think there's several contexts to that. So, I mean, one of the contexts could be a complaint from someone receiving services or their family, and like, does it impact the services they get? So I think that to me, one of the first thing that comes to mind is strong policies around that for agencies. So a lot of the work around licensed agencies is having sureties that policies are in place and followed. And so I think, you know, in that one context, it could really kind of come back to that to make sure that there's strong policies that would bar any type of retaliation, you know, on behalf of an individual, just, you know, standing up for themselves or the loved one to make sure that they're getting the care that they need. I think there's other scenarios within the realm of grievances where retaliation could take place. And I think that as we build out the system, I think that's part of it, making sure that there's really strong structure to make sure that no one's punished for raising their voice. No one's you know, treated differently or poorly because of the fact that they're advocating for a change or for a position.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen, for all that information. Thank you guys, all council members, for all your questions. I want to take the time and reiterate, thank you so much for this presentation, and Tom and Stephen for all your awesome information that excites me. So on to that, we are at 10:50. I just want to acknowledge Raquel right quick in the chat, saying that the retaliation piece is huge and it's real, and that is 100%, like 110% right on and truthful. So, and then the traumas, everybody's, look, see, you guys are all doing great in the chat. So now's the time where we're going to transition into for public comment. I just want to put in some guidelines here when it comes to asking public comment and stuff like that, that we keep individual comments to at least 1 minute to ensure that everybody has an opportunity to speak and we can hear from everybody. And I also want to put this out there because this is really huge. For public commenters to refrain from using triggering words and ensuring that this all remains a safe space for all of us. So all of us be mindful in how people are feeling, and yeah, so I'm going to open it up to the public for any public comment or questions at this time. I do know that there was, I don't know if there was any unmissed Q&A questions that were there, but I just wanted to readdress that there was those Q&A that I did throughout. So, but I'm readdressing it now. So.
No, there's I don't think there's anything that hasn't been addressed in the Q&A. And members of the public can certainly put their question in the Q&A area as a comment and read that out loud.
Marina, I'm
Yes.
hearing I'm hearing like two of you. I'm curious, are other people hearing?
Oh my God,
an
that's the
echo?
last thing you need.
I'm curious, maybe Marina, if you can go on mute, and Megan, can you give us instructions for what to do if people are interested in making public comment?
Yes, Tasha did a wonderful job of reminding us all that public comment needs to be limited to 1 minute and to use not to use triggering words to ensure that this remains a safe space for everyone. And it does look like public now has access to the chat. So it is open to public comment.
And Emily, you are more than welcome to give your public comment now that it's open. Thank you.
Do we need to promote people to be able to give them the ability to make public comment? I don't know how Zoom works, but I'm double checking she has the ability to, or Emily has the ability to unmute. Does Emily need to do people need to raise their hand in order to be identified, to be promoted as a panelist and given the ability to speak?
You said you need to turn on the mics.
Good question, Megan. Can you help me with this one?
Yes,
Technical difficulties.
I'm messaging Jason on the side. Jason, are you able to turn on everyone's ability to comment, please?
So I don't understand how to give public comment. I have sent letters, many letters for a long time. I don't know if anybody's even hearing me.
We can hear you, Emily.
We can hear you.
Yes. Thank you, Emily.
Yes, so I have somebody looking into the open meetings law because your chat log has to be open to the public and it's not. You all are chronically talking about chats. And there's the log isn't open to the public. Additionally, the request for safe words doesn't make sense to me. I will just tell you, as somebody who had consent violated at a BHA contractor, came and gave public comment before, and then had your commissioner say, oh, we're going to help Emily, we're going to help Emily. Well, what had happened was BHA required I meet with the not treating contractor who was not treating me, who did violate consent, demanded I meet with them without any consent of me. What the Commissioner Michelle did was apologize for violating my consent after promising she would not violate my consent. And that's it. She's done nothing else to help. And you all are talking about a grievance process. BHA already has a grievance process. No grievance process will work unless there's accountability, top to bottom. And there has to be a grievance process where people are not told, if a BHA contractor is raping women, don't talk about it. We have to be able to freely talk about the women who have had our consent violated at a BHA contractor and the BHA organization that refuses to do anything about this, but has publicly come to these meetings and said, oh, we're helping Emily, one of the victims. No, nobody will even talk to me at BHA. Nobody will return my contacts. Michelle met with me for like 10 minutes and apologized for her violating my consent. This is not okay what has been done to me. I have reached out to your grievance line. Don't give me your grievance line. Nobody has responded to me already reaching out to your grievance line. I've reached out plenty of times. Nobody is responding.
Emily, I appreciate you taking the time to share your comment, but I do want to remind you that we need to limit it to 1 minute, and we want to make sure that your concerns are addressed. So we are asking, please reach out to our grievance line.
Oh my God.
I would also, can I add into this? When it comes to accountability, I was in a mentor meeting in a conference a couple weeks ago, and one of the questions that I asked one of our congressmen was, how do you hold accountability when there is no consequence? And the answer that I got, and I don't know how this is going to reflect, and I'm just saying, like, if people don't feel like there's accountability, the accountability is lawsuit. And that's what it is under federal code. And that's if you're not getting anywhere on a state level, then to reach up to that federal level. And that's what that's just the advice that I can give to you, Emily, like to research it more if you're not satisfied with what's going on a state level. I am so sorry that you've had to go through this and you're enduring this trauma, and it breaks our hearts. I just want to make space for you, but I just wanted to give you that little bit of advice for your for you feeling like you aren't being heard and things aren't being done. So thank you.
I have my hand raised.
Go ahead, Queen.
Thank you. I can't see hands, so go ahead, Queen.
I know you can't. It's cool. I appreciate you, baby. Thank you for the time and space to make this comment. I live in Laramie County, where the city is very white cultured. It's a very white space. It's not a lot of Black support and Black culture. And right now, I feel like not only my person or my skin color is being attacked, but systems, my mental health is deteriorating. So when I think about behavioral health and my Black community, and I know this is like out of the box, but I am triggered by certain words. And one of them happens to be nigger, the N word, right? Oh, yeah, I said that. So I'm wondering, how do we support our Black communities' behavioral and mental health when we are very much like Michelle, when we be dragging her at the Family Voice Council? How do we continue to have thick skin? Right now, I'm in a space in a school district where they have this new anti-bullying thing where a child can say whatever they want to. So any child, Megan's child, Tasha's child, Michelle's child, can walk up and down the hallways of our schools and call my grandchildren and children nigger. Oh, nigger, nigger, nigger. I actually got a phone call from a school because my daughter lost her mind because she was called nigger in school. So what happens is that child gets pulled into the office and say, hey, you can't say that word. It's a bad word. But it's not until my daughter snatches the teeth out of some child's mouth and wear it like a necklace around their neck that now she's aggressive and she's getting assault charges. When I think about the mental health and the behavioral health of our Black community, I'm wondering, what is it that the BHA is doing specifically for, I know all Coloradoans matter. I know LGBTQ plus I know veterans and old folks matter. But when we got HB 40 on the table and it don't go nowhere, when we still talking about Black folks ain't whole people, when the Constitution is still telling me that I am not worth anything, and I am at every single diverse and equitable and inclusive table that we put together, how is the BHA going to support my community and my family and I as a Black woman and our mental health? Where are we going to put those spaces inside of my community with folks that look like me? Thank you. And I know I went over a minute, Megan, but thank you.
Queen, thank you. And such an important conversation for us to be having all the time. Thank you for bringing it up. Thank you to all of you for your comments and your participation. This meeting, from my perspective, felt really good. I heard your voices. Everyone was had lots to say and lots of questions and feedback. So with that, we will adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting will be in January of 2024. And I really appreciate every single one of you. As some follow-up, I know I have a follow-up email to send to all of you with some more information on Family Voice Council, and a couple of other things that I wrote down too. So I will get that sent out to you today. And as always, feel free to reach out to me at any point. I really appreciate every single one of you and your dedication to this council. Thank you all.
Hi, everyone.